kitty on a pinball machine. It's frowned upon in some circles, especially in this circle. Hi, everybody. Todd Dammit here. Cat owner, pinball machine owner. Today brought to you by our good friends at Agent Royale, presenting the brand new Jimmy Webb tribute t-shirt. A portion of the money is going to Music Cares in memory of our dear friend Jimmy we lost earlier this year. And this time of year, not only being about Christmas, it's also, to me, always about Lemmy, who entered the world and left the world right around the Christmas season. So, today I thought, wouldn't it be great to talk to somebody affiliated with the big man himself? Today, the only guy who was in Motörhead longer than this man was the man himself, Lemmy. Phil Campbell is one of the greatest guitar players on the planet, one of my favorite humans on the planet, and he has an amazing band made up of all of his own family, his own children, called Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons. But you know him, and I know him, and we love him as the guitar player from Motörhead. Ladies and gentlemen, and love, my dear friend, Phil Campbell.
There, now we're on. Boom. Now let's get into it. So, so the new music, did you record this during the quarantine?
Yeah, we did actually. We planned last year. We wanted to get our second album out by the end of 2020.
Right.
So January, February, we got together because we got our own studio a few miles down the road. So January and February, we got together. We taped a few sound checks and riffs from whatever shows we did last year. So by January and February, we got all the music together. You know, we've been rehearsing it solid. In March, then we kind of the major lockdown thing started.
I know.
So we were just sitting around and we kind of, I can't remember the exact time, but we decided at some point, oh, come on, we'll just take it slowly. Because Todd's in charge of all the production duties. So he'd go down with Dane first, you know, on the drums, and then different days, and we were all, you know, socially spaced and that. So we made the album that we wanted to make. There was no pressure.
Yeah.
You know, when it's come up with a blockbuster of an album, the sound is huge on it.
I bet it is. So who technically is producing? Or is this pretty self-produced?
Todd produced and engineered.
Sorry, who?
Todd Campbell.
Todd Campbell.
He's our guitarist as well.
Great.
So, yeah, he produced and engineered. And the same as my solo album. And Soren Anderson mixed.
Right.
You know, Soren, Glenn Hughes, his guitar player.
Great, very talented guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So where is home technically for you? Where are you right now?
South Wales.
Oh, you're still in Wales, right? Yeah, that's awesome. So how far are you living right now from where you grew up? Like, how far is the travel to where you grew up?
About 2 miles.
Is that right? I love that. That's so awesome because guy like me, I live so far from where I grew up. That's so cool that
you're Canadian, right?
That's right. Yeah, Commonwealth and all that. That's great.
I did played on a track for one of Canada's finest last week.
Oh, who's that? Tell me.
Mr. Jones.
Danko Jones?
Yeah. Danko asked me to play a cool track.
He's
I'm not sure if I'm not supposed to tell anyone. I don't know. He didn't say. So
why not? Why not?
If we drop him in the shit, who cares?
Who cares? Exactly. Well, that's so exciting. I think the fact that you kind of been able to kind of turn this crazy thing into something productive is really cool because a lot of people, I think, just lost the plot completely. You know,
It's tough, isn't it?
it's super tough. I mean, guys like you. I mean, the one thing I'll say for you is that you spent like 30 years literally on the road. It felt like you guys just sort of lived on the road, and then that sort of break, you know, that inevitably happens, and then you did the boys. So for those that don't know, the Bastard Sons, or essentially 3 of your sons, had a band, and you just sort of stuck yourself in the band. Is that how that worked, or how did that all come about?
When Todd, my eldest boy, when he was 30, we had a birthday party for him, 30th birthday party. And of course, all the family were there, and we had a band playing. And Neil, our singer, Neil Starr, he's a friend of the boys. So we just got up and did a few numbers. This was like 2 years before Motörhead finished. So they sounded pretty good. And we booked a couple of gigs just playing cover songs, some Sabbath,
Sure.
you know, and AC/DC and things like that. And it was good. And then we booked Bloodstock Festival. And we had Jericho came and did a number with us and things. So, and then sadly, like when Motörhead finished, we kind of took it more seriously then. I had time to think and a lot more time on my hands.
Of course, yeah.
So we changed the name. One of the boys came up with a name, Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons.
Yeah,
my wife hated the name. She's got used to it now, but she still doesn't like it.
I don't blame her.
And we dropped the big banner at we played one of the big tents in Wacken Festival in Germany.
Great.
So that was like, because before that we were called Phil Campbell's All Star Band because it was just a bit of fun then. So
sure, yeah. But it's so funny that you kind of like, it's almost like you were like, you know, a football coach and decided to raise all-star sons so you could just put a team together. And specific positions too. You play the drums, you play, you know, it's like, it's very specific that you kind of managed to not only just build a band, but like really strong players in each of those guys. And then found Neil, of course, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite unique, you know, and when we're on stage, I kind of forget sometimes there's my kids. You just feeling the vibes from some kick-ass rock band you're on stage with, and then you just get a bit of clarity there, and you go, oh God, the boys, yes, the kids.
I know,
they sounded good. Like the shows we did with you and Slash, like they were really good. That was fun 4 shows anyway.
Fantastic shows.
Yeah, great,
it's got to be interesting because it's like I literally changed your diapers and now you're playing in the band with me. It's like it's so bizarre to me.
Yeah, I'm proud of it. Like, yeah, it's great.
As you should be. I think it's one of those things too that like the idea of blood and all that, and the ability of you know, because music is a chemistry thing, and it is sort of about the frequencies that we all kind of vibrate at, and having like 4 of you that are all Campbells has to go a long way at the end of the day somehow.
It does. You can. It's there. Like you can feel it. They've been brought up in my house since they were so young, 3 and 4, and then they used to come to pubs with my side band and put them on the drums, and you know, and listen to Satriani together, and you know, my generation and stuff.
It's so funny,
you know, and then they got the stuff that they were into, their generation. So the Bastard Sons, we've accumulated like 2 generations of inspiration. You know,
can't imagine,
and you know, it's got to infiltrate the songwriting and you know, performances in some way, even if you can't describe what way. You know,
not at all.
You know, inspiration's like you don't know where it comes from. Sometimes you do, but that's the magic of music. There's no rules. There's no explanations a lot of the time.
No, and that's what's so cool about it is it's kind of like I said, it's like they all kind of found their position. Like they didn't like end up like 2 guys are singers or 2 guys are drummers. It's kind of like did they find each other and decide like we're going to play together like as a group when they were young?
Yeah, they all played them guitar, bass, and drums to various degrees of success.
Right.
Because Tyler plays amazing guitar with his other band, the People, the Poet,
Right.
and Dane on drums. Dane can play slap bass and Jaco Pastorius and stuff.
Crazy.
And so there's no nepotism really. They all earn their place in the band, like, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
They can all play. They can all ride with the best of them, you know.
Yeah, there's no dead weight being carried along just because he has the right last name, is there?
Me, as a dead weight sometimes.
Well, I don't know about that, but well, it's so funny too, because I was thinking about you because I was listening to you guys, and I thought it was really interesting to me because I've spent so much time listening to you as the only guitar player, and I know you came into Motörhead with Wurzel, and what do you think is the most? I'm always very curious as a guitar player, when you're playing with another guitar player, it's a completely different dynamic than when you're the only guitar player. Does it free you up to some degree having the second guitar to play with, or is it an interesting dynamic somehow? I can't imagine the difference.
I don't know. Well, to start with, me and Wuz, when we were first playing, well, up until when he left, it was kind of natural, you know. We would know if that's the place he should be doing it, breaks, and that solo was like tailor-made for me or whatever. And then when he decided to leave, I said to the boys, before we try anyone else out, let's try as a three-piece. I think I can do it. And I said, and if it's not working, believe me, I'll be the first one to say,
sure,
we need to get someone in, you know. But we were all happy with it, and I guess at the time, then when I was playing in Motörhead, I thought it'd be really difficult, you know, to play with another guitar player.
Right.
But luckily, Todd knows what I'm thinking. Luckily, it's my son playing the guitar with me, so he knows. He knows ahead of time. It's that, you know what I mean? What we were just talking about.
Yeah.
You know, that special bond and that. So
totally. And
it's great as well. You know, he's coming up with tons of riffs. We all are. There's 5 people jumping in ideas, you know.
Yeah. Well, there is a certain amount of, like, when I listen to the Bastard Sons, there's a certain amount of AC/DC kind of guitar interplay. Like, you guys are not stepping on each other or anything like that. Everything's complementary, and then you step out to do your thing, he steps out to do his thing. It's always interesting because, you know, I'm so accustomed to seeing you with the guys back in the day, and you were the only guitar player. And the one thing about Motörhead that I always find interesting about single guitar player bands is I always liked listening to The Who or Led Zeppelin when the guitar player goes to the solo and that rhythm guitar drops out. That never bothered me. It freaks some people out that, like, Slash doesn't like that. He always has to have another guitar player because when the guitar solo happens, there's this immediate drop in the rhythm tone. But I mean, while Motörhead was, when you played the solo, there was, you know, the bass was a rhythm guitar in and of itself, wasn't it? So,
yeah.
But you guys, I think you guys do it really great with the Bastard Sons. It's a classic rock thing, but like you said, those guys have all kinds of new school influences as well that they bring to it, and it's the energy of youth. You know, we're always lucky to have those young guys to kind of tag along with. That's always handy.
Oh yeah, I can take a little back seat, you know,
exactly.
again, instead of having all the pressure piled on. Come up with a new riff, Phil. Come up with, you know, give us a break, guys.
Exactly.
You know, you can have some productive days when you're writing or recording.
Of course.
Some days you're just flogging a dead horse. You're wasting your time.
Yeah, I know.
You know, you might as well go home and start again the next day.
Exactly.
But that reminds me, yes, I heard Slash is proudly saying that you were the one that didn't need any second takes on the record.
Well, he keeps saying that stuff, and I always kind of go, I don't remember it quite like that, but
no pressure on you.
Keep telling that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So God forbid I be like, make even the slightest mistake. It'll be like all eyes on me. Like, big hero, come on. one
Come
take
on, man,
wonder.
what's wrong with you today?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember it quite like that, but if that's how he remembers it, all the better.
Fine.
But actually, we're talking about the new record is meant to be, I'm probably not supposed to be talking out of school either, but again, we're trying to do it a lot more live again. So he likes to do fairly live, sounding records. I mean, obviously things get recorded individually and then piled on, but he likes to be able to kind of, when we rehearse songs, it's sort of like the arrangement, even the guitar solo is worked out long before we go in and actually press the record button. You know what I mean? So it's everybody works differently. Back in the day with the Motörhead guys, was it built around riffs? Like, did you have a riff, or was it more built around lyrics and conceptual ideas? I always wondered that.
Most of it was around riffs.
Yeah.
I mean, Orgasmatron, Lem had the lyrics first for that, and
right.
He was really proud of them lyrics, and so he should have been. A great set of lyrics.
They were.
And most of it was riffs. Occasionally, Mickey'd come up with some, some drum thing, or Filthy would come up with stuff.
How long was Filthy still around when you were playing, when you joined the band?
Well, 2 days. Me and Wurzel joined, and 2 days after joining, we were on the Young Ones TV program.
Right.
And then the following morning, Filthy decides to leave. Proper, typical drumming, perfect timing.
Wow. Yeah, I always.
He left for 3 years then, when we had Pete Gill. Pete was great from sax, and then Filthy came back for quite a while then.
I totally forgot about the Pete chapter. Not forgot about it, but it's kind of like, because Mickey is such a gigantic presence that it kind of like, once Mickey came in, it sort of like takes over the entire thing, doesn't it? But yeah. No, I've always been fascinated with that because Lemmy was so amazing at lyrics. Like, I mean, and being able to find, like, say you present a riff, he could turn that into a classic song, like just with very little, even like the song he made for Slash or the one he made with Dave Grohl. It's kind of like they all sort of, he was so good at finding the song within the riff and turning it into this classic moment, it's like, so
he's always full of surprises, Lem, those people in the know how good he was at lyrics, but generally he doesn't get acclaimed like he should be.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Aussie song, that Aussie song in many ways probably is one of the furthest reaching in its own way, because it goes into a whole different territory as far as a ballad and that kind of stuff. But people, the lyrics in that song, I mean, it's the kind of thing everybody stops and goes like, you have to kind of salute his ability.
Like, don't let daddy kiss me, I ain't no nice guy. And then at the other end of the scale, Angel City. I was thinking of that the other night, and it's a rock and roll song, and I want to be an intellectual, heterosexual, Angel City tonight. Where did I get that from?
One of my favorite stories, and I've told it before, but we were playing at the House of Blues, and, Lemmy does that song, Dr. Alibi, on Slash's album back in 2010.
Yeah.
And I would sing it. It was a great honor to be able to sing that song. And people were always like, it became sort of my signature song, and it's all Lem. But so we played that night. And then the other song I would sing was that Iggy Pop wrote a song for Slash's album. And I would sing that song. And then Lemmy got up at the House of Blues. He sang Dr. Alibi with us. He might have sang something else, maybe Ace of Spades. As much as he didn't necessarily prefer to do that. But I remember coming off stage after, and I sang the Iggy Pop song. And there's a line in it that goes, I can't remember exactly how it goes right now, but it says something about peeing on the ground. Like, I think it's sort of like Iggy Pop saying, like, just do whatever you want. We're all going to die. Let's get high. Pee on the ground. And I remember Lemmy looks at me and goes, does that say pee on the ground? And I go, yeah. He goes, you got to change that, mate. And I was like, I can't change it. Like, that's not my song. I mean, Iggy Pop wrote that. But Lemmy's like, you know, he's listening to the lyrics. He's standing there. You know, he's not just
he's sharp. He's
yeah,
sharp, you know.
he was always really sharp. That's what I always appreciated about him. I'll never forget how many times there was like a hubbub of activity going around, and Lem was always that rock standing there, just kind of like telling you a story and never lost track of the story. You know? And it was just like he was Obi-Wan Kenobi in the middle of this storm of insanity all the time. Yeah.
Or the eyebrow would come up. There could be chaos going on, and he'd look at you, and the eyebrow would go up, and he'd get back to whatever he was doing. Like,
yeah,
I miss him a lot.
Oh, I can't imagine. I can't imagine. And that's what I kind of thought of you a lot, because when all this went down, the pandemic went down, I suddenly thought to myself, well, Phil's been on stage for 30 years. I mean, there were breaks. Obviously, you guys had breaks or whatever, but it was like, because you joined in, 84, right?
Yeah, we didn't have many breaks. Really.
No, not really. Like, you guys were always touring. So once it's finished, you got a break, and then you kind of find the...
Yeah, each tour kind of rolled into the next one, because, you know, we didn't sell millions. We didn't ever sold platinum albums. You know, we had to gig, you know, constantly, basically. You like to build everything up.
But that was the high respect factor of it, is the sort of you know, the Bob Dylan thing of Bob Dylan's never-ending tour. He's going to tour till the end, you know. And I think that was sort of created the you know, the sort of like outlaw thing of like Motörhead, and it to the point that we started to take it for granted, in the fact that, well, they're always around. Motörhead will always be around. We can see them next year.
Next year. Yeah, they'll be out of town next year.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's the beauty of it. It was always this reliability, that there will always be a new Motörhead record. They will always be around, and although it's constantly growing, it's still like AC/DC. It's a flavor you expect. You know what you're going to get when you sit down at the restaurant and order the AC/DC meal, you know, or the Motörhead meal, you know. But it's, you know, it's one of those things. I'm so happy you found, well, not even found, that you literally created the Bastard Sons, because it's sort of like it waves the flag, but it's still its own thing. I mean, that kid is such a great singer, and he's really good at doing his own thing too. So
yeah, because Neil's influences, I mean, I'm not quite sure what they were, because you couldn't tell you the name of a Led Zepp album or a Deep Purple album.
Really?
You had no idea.
Really?
He never grew up listening to it. So that's another aspect which, you know, which he's bringing to the table.
Interesting.
Yeah, he wouldn't have a clue.
That's so exciting, though, because I think at the same time, it's you clearly speak the same language. He's just coming at it from a different angle, where you're like,
yeah.
Because you want to say, like, yeah, kind of like, you know, this Deep Purple song. He's like, no idea what you're talking about, but he clearly gets the idea.
His interpretation, like, yeah,
exactly.
He's interpreting things in his way, like.
Exactly.
But I'm glad that you like the Bastard Sons anyway. I'm really proud of it.
You should be. Yeah, it's really exciting, and it's really amazing. And I what's the huge bummer of it is just us all sitting around now that you have new music coming out, because I've had a few friends put out new records, and we're all kind of, nobody's quite sure, because you're like from the same background as the rest of us. You make a record almost for an excuse to go play, you know, so you can go and play shows. But now when you take away the show factor, you're like, well, what do? We make it. It
was very weird, isn't it? You know,
live stream something. Have you considered any of that, like doing a live stream show or music video?
No. We haven't spoke about it yet.
Well, the young guys are probably thinking that. Trust me, they're probably.
I'm quietly optimistic that things will get back to normal at some point next year. You know, I ain't gonna go out until it's safe.
I know.
You know, I'm 60. I'm 60 next birthday.
Are you really?
You know, yeah.
I would never guess that.
Oh, there you go.
Other than the fact that you have grown-ass children. But so do I. So there's that.
Yeah, I'd like to think things can get back to normal, you know, and what's one of the things that's keeping me going is looking at the joy on the bands, the artists, and the audiences when things do start to happen good. I
Well,
think there should be free beer for the first couple of weeks and things.
yeah, I agree. Well,
You
it's
know.
going to be a massive traffic jam of new music and bands just trying to get out and play. It's going to be like, for anybody who's a rock and roll fan, they're going to be in heaven, because it's going to be like every band they ever loved is going to be burning through town every week. You know what I mean?
Because we both know like what rock and roll fans are like. They're just true to it. They're the most amazing people you could wish for. They follow you
Absolutely.
through thick and thin.
Yeah.
They love it.
And because you sort of, like, for 30 years, going back to whether it's Des Moines, Iowa, or Germany or Japan, you see those same faces every time you go back for 30 friggin' years. It's like, it's an amazing thing, that connection that people have to music, and it's what keeps us doing it.
Or Banff. We played a chicken in a basket place once from Motörhead.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine that. You must have blown the town to pieces. Oh my God. Wow. Well, that's so exciting, though, because I think it's one of those things where, there's no band like Motörhead or like the Ramones, who was 100% built on performing and releasing music just constantly, sort of, it wasn't about platinum records and limousines. It was about music, you know what I mean? And I think that
every 18 months, Todd, that new album.
Exactly, yeah.
Go on the road. And what about, you've been keeping busy or yourself, right?
Yeah. There's been a lot of studio stuff that kind of came, I was going to say quickly, but it took me. I think I'm like you, where it's that the first week or two of shutdown, I was kind of like, I should be doing something. I got to call that guy. I got to return that email, and it took about 2 weeks before I finally, my wife puts on a Netflix series or something like that, and the next episode comes up, and you go, should we watch the next episode? Why not? And the next thing you know, you're on the couch. And then you just don't want to get off the couch.
I've been on that today.
Well done.
My wife found Designated Survivor with Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh, well done.
So I've been on the couch all after. I basically just got up to talk to you. And I got another interview later on, but
that's exciting. It's exciting that you're getting like a bunch of press now, because I think the interesting thing that you brought up was these shows coming back, and I don't know objectively, because I live in the States and things are still pretty slow around here, but I think Europe is starting to slowly kind of snap back, and I think it probably will snap back quicker than we will. The UK and Europe, hopefully.
Well, I don't know about that, Todd.
No.
From Friday, we did 3 weeks hard lockdown in Wales.
Oh, you did? Okay, wow.
They said everything's going to rise in start of October, and it did.
I was going to ask. Go ahead.
Basically, the governments didn't know what they're doing.
It's all kind of a crapshoot, isn't it? I was going to ask you about growing up in Wales. Was there any sort of I'm trying to think, the Manic Street Preachers. We love those guys. They came out of Wales. There's a whole thing about
Stereophonics.
Stereophonics, yeah.
And Chris Slade, the drummer. Chris is from 2 streets away where I was born.
He lives here in Vegas, as far as at least has a part-time here in Vegas. Yeah. So
there was good bands. Good. It was like a bastion, one of the last bastions of like Budgie came from close by as well.
That's
and
right.
Man, and it's like one of the last bastions of good late hippie-ish kind of early hard rock sort of things,
It is funny because, you assume like places like London, like New York City or Los Angeles, but then you think to yourself, well, the Beatles came from Liverpool. That may as well be, some small town in Iowa or something in America. You know? So it's a fascinating thing to think of all the talent that kind of sprouts out of all these other areas. And Wales has had no shortage of talent sprout from there. And I assume you guys probably had a ton of clubs and things like that people would kind of, in the UK scene, must have been touring through and whatnot during all that.
Yeah, there's like working men's clubs. You'd have to go on after the bingo and things. you know.
The bingo was a
like,
big thing. I just read Sting's book, and he was always talking about having to play after bingo in working men's clubs.
I was drumming once, and I dropped my cymbal case in the middle of bingo, and it just went, and the entire floor just looked at me like if I just massacred everyone. You don't fuck with a bingo.
No, don't mess with the bingo, man. It's so funny though, because I did the same thing. I grew up in rural Canada, and we would play these clubs in like oil markets where they had like, they all these men would be there working seasonally doing oil work, whatever that is. And a lot of, beer drinking and the stage is there, and they're not even looking at you. They're just kind of like, they're just drinking their beer, and you're trying to be awesome and cool and entertaining. And you kind of get used to, if even one person claps after the song, that's a success. You know what I mean? So I think there's something to be said about that whole, the Blues Brothers with the throwing beer, and there's like a chicken fence, a chicken wire in front of the stage, so that the day you finally start playing to people who actually give a shit about your band, you're like, wow, I didn't expect this. This is success. People are enjoying our music. It's a good thing to come up in.
Yeah, you gotta, when you start off, I think you gotta enjoy playing. You shouldn't expect to be successful. You can hope to be successful, dream of being successful, but you shouldn't expect to be successful.
No.
You gotta need a load of luck. Just keep going.
Can you imagine being 23 and being like a gazillionaire and all the girls love you? Like, it must just mess you up. It's for the rest of us, it's like we're still doing this all these years later, like putting on a hard hat and going to work. You know what I mean? In the best possible way, because we love putting on the hard hat and going to work. That's the beauty of all this to me.
When I started with an earlier band, there's no internet, obviously. So if we had a gig somewhere in a working men's club, we'd have to travel up to that town a couple of weeks before, under the cover of darkness, poster up, put about a dozen posters around the town.
Sure.
And then somebody would drive back up after 3 or 4 days and see how many of them are left. Oh, no. And that's how we had to promote gigs. It's like with flyers, isn't it?
Of course, yeah. So you had to do it under cover of darkness, or otherwise what, the local constabulary would arrest you or something?
Yeah, they wouldn't.
They wouldn't put up with that.
Kindly to it.
I love it. I love that whole thing, because when I go to England or the UK or whatever, it's funny to me, because when I look at a map, it seems so small. The idea of traveling around and playing these towns, it seems like in Canada is so big, and the next town is like 8 hours that way. It's like, it's very difficult, and it's freezing cold. So at least in the UK, you can, I guess there's ferries involved in some cases and whatnot.
Well, I think from the bottom of the UK up to the top of Scotland, there's probably about 7-8 hours drive.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So so that's not too far. That could be like driving. That's nothing for some of you Canadians and Americans.
Yeah, exactly.
It's down the road.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we can never believe. What Americans and Canadians thought was just down the road. Like 2,000-mile drive. Like, oh, we'll be there. And people will turn up. We've been overnight on a bus in luxury sleeping or whatever, or flown, and kids are there before you, and they were there the night before. Don't know how they do it.
I don't know either. Yeah. So what's the plan as far as, I don't want to keep you much longer. Please let me know when you got to go, because I'll just talk and talk and talk. But so what's the plan as far as the record comes out very quickly here, October, yes?
November
Oh, November
13th.
13th.
We have
Okay,
13 brand new tracks.
great. So is that is
It's called We're the Bastards.
beautiful, beautiful. Is there like a music video planned or anything like that? Is that a thing in 2020?
We've got 3 out already, and on the release day, we've got an animated version of us
Cool. That's so
on some
cool.
adventure.
I love it. I love it. That's exciting. And then I guess you're just waiting to see when you can go actually do shows and that sort of thing, huh?
Yeah, we booking up. We've booked some festivals next year. You know, we've got Wacken and Hellfest and things like that.
2021, you're talking about.
Yeah,
Those things are still on the books at least. That's good to hear.
yeah. We put out tour from this year to the UK and German tour. We put that back till next year. But whether these things will happen or not is
I know.
same with everything.
Yeah.
I am quietly optimistic. I'm a glass half full kind of guy.
I'm the same way. I really believe that I think the audience is desperate for it. You know what I mean? I think that people are
We're desperate for it.
Yeah.
We want our buzz. We want our onstage buzz.
Exactly. That's actually true. Yeah. The drug of it all, isn't it? You're kind of like, you're wondering why you're so out of sorts, and you realize, well, I haven't been on stage. I haven't been doing.
We're going to be in front of mirrors. In 2 months' time, we'll be looking in front of mirrors.
With a badminton racket again, pretending to.
Anything. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, it would be sad if that wasn't so true. I think that's, it's the actors and the comedians and everybody. We have this sort of like need to get up in front of people and do what we do. Yeah. It's.
Oh, comedians must be terrible.
Yeah. Literally in front of their mirrors. Hey,
Lots of time to hone their art to perfection,
exactly.
though.
Yeah, and then you just hope that with the next time you get on stage, you can try and like rein back that energy so you don't like blow out a knee or like just the songs are all twice as fast as they should because you're so excited to be there.
Oh, they don't seem two keys higher than what they were.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
the backing vocals.
Yeah. They'll have to get my trousers will have to get a lot tighter than they normally are. Well, that's exciting. I'm really excited to hear what you guys have come up with, and I'll look for the videos now that I know there's some videos out there because in a lot of ways that sort of there was a lot of talk of like, well, rock and roll is dead. Like they always say that in America. They're always saying, now it's some sort of like dance related type music or whatnot. And I always go, well, it's weird to me because I go to Europe and Japan and Australia and South America every year, and people show up in droves for rock and roll, like literally the old school form of rock and roll, loud guitars and the whole thing. And it never dies. And in reality, too, in America, it's everywhere. And now you're seeing all these younger bands from the Struts and Greta Van Fleet and all these younger rock groups, Dirty Honey, Joyous Wolf, and they're all rock bands. They're not hip hop influenced or, sequencing and all these kind of loops. They're rock bands. They're like literally Les Paul and a lead singer kind of rock bands. And that sort of will never die in and of itself. I don't think.
People want to go out after work. They want to drink beers and stamp their feet.
Yeah.
Go
hit on the waitress.
and just keep this. Rock and roll was a good idea at the start. This thing ain't going to go away.
It is.
It's not some fad.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Way.
And I think that, I don't know much about, I'm obsessed with English music like so many of us, or like the UK thing. And rock and roll, like, when you think of like, I don't know, Status Quo or something like that, or any of those groups from that area, it's that rock and roll is still, like you said, working man clubs, just loud rock and roll, spilling beer everywhere. It seems to live on forever. And you guys sort of still wave that flag to some degree, maybe not quite as pedestrian as I've said it, but I think in a lot of ways you guys are like from the tradition of Motörhead and AC/DC and that kind of thing, I think it carries over very well.
Yeah, I think I'd like to call our band rock and roll, or classic rock music,
Well, it was always
we're not heavy metal, I don't think,
No. But I think that was one of my favorite things when Lem would walk on stage. We're Motörhead and we played rock and roll. I think that was the most honest thing he could have ever said, because he would constantly. I had this conversation with a friend of mine talking about Lemmy when we would talk about rockabilly, because as you know, he loved what they term rockabilly, old school rock and roll. And he would say it shouldn't be called rockabilly, it should be called rock and roll. Because when he was a kid, that was rock and roll. And now they have to kind of term everything. This is heavy metal, this is grunge, this is rockabilly. And but the fact that he would walk on stage and say, we're Motörhead and we play rock and roll is the most broad yet most direct statement he could possibly make, because there's no other word for what you couldn't call Motörhead heavy metal. I suppose you could, but to me it was just really loud rock and roll.
Yeah. We just used to stumble on stage. We did no fanfare and
yeah. Well, you don't need it, right? I mean, we're the same way. It's like there was a lot of discussion about pyro or screens and things like that, and Slash will always be like, nah. He's like, he does that in Guns N' Roses, but in our thing, it's kind of like you're at a club, but it's a bigger show. It just happens to be, like the
music comes first.
Yeah, like the music is the pyro. The music is the big screens. The music is everything. Yeah. And there was no bigger attention grabber than when you guys would do your thing, because you literally were the loudest band on the planet, and you didn't need any of that other stuff because the music was everything. That really was what it was.
I wish I could have viewed how loud it was, actually, but I'll never quite know how loud it was out the front.
It was loud, dude. I was out there many, many times, and it was, but not in a bad way. And I think that's what I always appreciate, because to this day, as a bass player, the conversation is constantly like Lemmy. Like, how do we get the tone? Like to try and find, because Lem was very big on that sort of very piercing Marshall tone. And then on the later records, they started to find, probably against his will in some ways, of sort of bringing in some bottom end and making this just monolithic bass tone that all of us that do what I do are still trying to kind of crack that code. Do you know what I mean? Because there's something very, like I say, when you would go to do a solo, it never felt that feeling of the guitar dropping out, because Lem was carrying all these other frequencies that normally vanished as soon as the guitar player went to do a guitar solo in any other band, usually.
It was like if he was strumming three guitars at once, with a low frequency, a mid one, and a high. He got everything to sound.
He really did, and I think that guys like John Entwistle also lived in that world as well. They were trying to find that.
Lem loved Entwistle, yeah. Lem's a huge fan of Entwistle.
I could totally see that. But yeah, dearly missed. He was a great man. But yeah, well, I'm so happy we got a chance to catch up. I've always been a huge fan. Yeah, I've always been a huge fan of what you do, and I'm so excited. I can't tell you how exciting it is, because I played in a band with two of my brothers, and one of my brothers for a long time, and then when the younger one got caught up, got out of the short pants, he joined us as well. And there's so many elements about like Oasis or the Kinks where you'd hear about brothers just hating each other, So when I see a band, a family type organization that actually makes it work and gets along, I'm always like, that's very exciting and very cool. And you guys seem to have that all sorted out.
Yeah, we're making good music.
Absolutely. So
check out the video for We're the Bastards then, for the song We're the Bastards.
I will. I'll chase it down right now. And hey, you got any words about Eddie Van Halen real quick? Because Eddie just passed, and we've all been talking about Eddie. I don't know.
I just met him briefly a long time ago. I mean, yeah, you've just total pioneer.
Really, yeah. It's the only word. That's the best word for him. That's you've coined it right there.
Just a unique force.
He really was. He reinvented it, didn't he? It was
Oh
fascinating.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It was actually because I'm kind of more like from the world you come from, where it's sort of more like you just tear the guitar apart. Like I love that kind of. I was never really into this stuff, but when I watch him do it, I go, well, that's kind of why I didn't do it, because I was like, well, that guy's the guy. You know, it's like
I've tried doing it. I can't do it.
Yeah, but you're so you everything you do is exactly what it should be, and that's the kind of guitar playing that I like.
You learn to play to your strengths after a while.
Absolutely.
With experience.
Exactly. That's the best. That's the best word for it. Well, I'm really excited to see what you guys got going on, and hopefully, once things kind of chill out, we'll probably find ourselves backstage at some festival somewhere, and we'll share a shepherd's pie.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, that's fantastic. Make
Awesome.
sure you say hi to the boys.
I will. I'll be seeing them this weekend, so I will for sure. And please say hi to your boys, to all of them for sure. Okay, man. Take care. Good luck with everything.
Pleasure, Todd. Lovely.
You too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.